Hello and welcome to the Cheese Room podcast. My name is Becky and I am your host for this evening. Tonight we will be looking back at the rather disappointing North London derby on Saturday, but we'll also take a look ahead to tomorrow, try and cheer ourselves up a little bit, which is against Frankfurt, which is 8 o'clock kickoff UK time. But I'm delighted to have some very esteemed guests with me today. There's just the three of us, but it's going to be awesome. And it says here on my run sheet that you have a combined age of 100.
Who wrote that? Is that you, Dave?
It won't.
Yeah. It's called being self-deprecating, Paul.
So from South London, it's Paul. Hello, Paul. How are you? Had a good day?
Well, I'm fine. My ego's taken a bit of a dent there 15 seconds ago, but no, I'm fine. I've recovered after Saturday, and we did the pod straight after, myself, Brendan and Franco, and got that out. And then I watched the game again yesterday. Yeah, I've got over it and ready to talk about it.
I saw a really lovely sunrise this morning. I opened the curtains and I thought of you straight away. It was like proper pink and purple and massive because you're often up early, aren't you, out there on the run?
I am hitting the road early, yeah, Rocky style.
And Davo, when I read the run sheet earlier this afternoon, I was like, is that a spelling mistake from John? Because it says you're in Hertfordshire and not in Australia. Explain.
That is right. I am. I've been over here for a couple of weeks. We're going back Thursday night. So yeah, I'm staying at my mum's in Hertfordshire, just up the road from Bushy Mead School, that's where George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley met and went on to form Wham. There you go. First 80s trivia reference.
Is it near the Harry Potter tour?
Yeah,
that way, isn't it?
Yeah, very near.
And Big Brother, isn't it? Big Brother down that way as well.
Yeah, well, the Borewood Studios that used to have Top of the Pops and EastEnders. I think that's still the case. Yeah, it's just showbiz all around here. You wouldn't believe.
I've got family in that area, and they often down the little windy lanes kind of have incidences where the EastEnders cast kind of like driving too fast and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, yeah, it's nice part of the world, and that it's nice to have you over here. It's a shame we can't meet up.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So on to a few housekeeping bits, please. Usual bits. Hello to everyone in the chat. I can see a few people already. See Craig, Kerry. Hello, welcome along. Please do join in the comments. It does help us. And if you haven't done already, please hit the like and subscribe. And as a kind of little extra bonus, I've been asked to say that we've still got the offers on in Kitbag. I know on Friday's show we were talking about kitbag.com. There's an offer of 25% off. Go on there and have a look at that. That would be wonderful. Right, okay. If we have to, let's go back to Saturday. Cast our minds back to 12:30. Well, even before that, 11:30, really, the starting lineup. So it was 3-4-3. Richarlison's in, but no Kulusevski. We thought Kulusevski was injured. There was mention into it on Friday that he'd come back despite playing every minute of the Sweden games with a muscle injury. And then, so he wasn't in the squad, and Bissouma's not starting. Paul, what did you make of the lineup?
It's pretty much how I expected it to be, really. I know Davies is still out. He didn't play for Wales over the international break. So it was always going to be Longley. And then we found out that, as you say, Kulu come back with a slight hamstring or a quad strain. I can't remember what it was. So, yeah, it was all going to be that 3-4-3. I was worried. I knew we weren't going to get a lot of the ball before the game, and I was a little bit worried that we were going to miss Kulu kind of knit all together between defense and quick attack. But we know if we got in the box, and as it worked out, Richarlison got us the penalty. But I still think Richarlison can be better in build up. He needs to be better in build up because we can't go like we did at the weekend, missing Kulu to knit it all together. So when I saw the lineup, those are my only concerns.
David, agree with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, I missed the first 20 minutes of the game-ish, but in terms of the lineup, I would have gone. Look, apparently Bissouma came back with a slight injury issue, which is why he didn't start. But I knew he wasn't going to do this, but I would have played three in that midfield. I'd have had Bentancur, Højbjerg, and Bissouma, and then I'd have had Son and Kane up top, and then Richarlison's a really good option to come off the bench. There's no way you can have Sonny on the bench after the Leicester game. And I think that would have given us a bit more flexibility. But knowing full well that is the team he was going to pick anyway.
Yeah, I think, like you're saying, for me, it reminded me of the beginning of the North London derby in May when Romero was out and Sanchez was in. It wasn't necessarily a shock lineup, but there was so much talk in the week about if Kulusevski was injured, that it would be the opportunity to put Basuma in and change formation. And then when he didn't do that, I know a lot of people I've spoken to, you're sort of already thinking, right, well, it's going to be a game where Arsenal are going to be attacking us. It's going to be a very defensive game. And for a North London derby, it's just not the kind of formation you really want to have. I think also, as great as Richarlison was in the week, in the international break, he was playing up front. He wasn't playing on the right wing. So, and this was similar at Leicester. He struggled a little bit at Leicester because it's not really his kind of position. He's not there for, banging crosses in. And although, don't get me wrong, he got the penalty and there were a few bright sparks from him, but that's not really his kind of position. And I agree with you, David, is that we because Kulu's injured, we didn't have the opportunity to kind of switch it, which I think Basuma would probably sit on the bench just feeling a bit frustrated, I think, by all of that. But yeah, so it just started before the game had kicked off. I think we were sort of, a bit worried about it. And then as it turned out, game started and it was kind of all Arsenal, wasn't it, David?
Yeah, well, that's what I heard. I mean, I didn't see the first 20 minutes, but a mate of mine whose house I quickly went and watched the game at, I spoke to him and he said, well, it's the Gooners are all over us, etc., etc., so it's no surprise. So maybe it's better for Paul to comment on the opening bit of the game.
Okay. We just said, okay, Arsenal, come at us. Martinelli pinned Emerson back and Saka pinned Perisic back there. They were playing with two number 8s, basically in Odegaard and Granit Xhaka, and we started really, really slowly, even though we knew the tactics were going to be absorb, and then hit them on the break. The first 10-15 minutes, they were all over us. I don't think we probably were in their opposition half, maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes at the most. It was really, really frustrating. Obviously, big game. We knew the tactics going into it. We know what Conte's going to do. But even so, that first 15 minutes was really, really hard to watch. It was like we were even further back than I thought we were going to. We conceded a lot. We were camped on the edge of the 18-yard box and doubling up at the sides. And the lads, Benton Højbjerg doing so much work in the mid. And again, Xhaka was breaking forward, and we just weren't getting out because of, as I said, Martinelli and Saka just really pinning back our wing backs. Tough 15 minutes to watch. Very tough.
And I think also when every time they did kind of say Dyer had a header or somebody did have an interception, it was just coming straight back, wasn't it? There was no kind of out ball. It was just pinging. It was like watching kids football when they can't kind of get it out of the area, and it was just coming back in. And there were a couple of times when, of course, they were playing at this point. We're playing counter attack. A couple of times I remember Sonny getting the ball and he kind of there was like an overhit pass to Richarlison and there was a similar one to Kane and it was all just sort of scraps, but nothing like we're used to. And it's like I was saying, I was on Holly's show yesterday, the way it ended at Leicester and how it started at Arsenal couldn't have been more different. Yep. Yes, I know we haven't got Kulusevski playing, but it was just a huge difference. And also, I said yesterday, a fair bit of irony to that match that the first goal scorer for Arsenal had to be who it was. And, we're not going to go too much in it. There's been some reports out today, hasn't there, about further information. Yeah. So, but yeah, so, it says here in my run sheet, was it poor defending or do we begrudgingly give credit for that strike? David, what do you think about all? Go on then, Paul.
David, did you see the goal?
Yeah, I saw the goal.
Okay,
and
yeah, go on.
I'm more than happy for our first difference of opinion of the evening, Paul, is that,
okay.
Do you know what? I looked at it a couple of times. I thought Hugo was a bit slow to it. I thought he was a bit slow to it. And there has been a couple of times in the last couple of seasons when I felt a long ranger's beating him, and I'm not too sure whether he should have done better with that. And I always remember, if you remember Paul Robinson, he had one or two great seasons, and then he started getting beaten by long-range shots, and he was nowhere near the age of Hugo by a mile. And then you remember someone like, was it Friedel got lobbed at Villa, and he got done at QPR as well. And sometimes, is it the long ranges? I don't know. But I felt that he had too much time. He had, obviously, number one, the fact that he managed to get that shot in, but we weren't closing him down, number one. And number two, I just felt, I looked at it a couple of times and I thought, could you have done a bit better with that, Hugo, on that goal?
I think it's.
I must admit,
you're disagreeing with me, Paul, I reckon.
No, go on, Becky.
Well, that was my first reaction as well, because I looked up and thought, oh, as much as it is on the edge of the box, and I thought he just didn't seem to be positioned well for it. No, he's not the tallest of keepers, but it just seemed like he could have done better. And I think, like I said, maybe because of who it was kind of hoping that was it. But it like I said, ironic for him to score, but also for the fact that most of the week we weren't sure if Lloris was even going to play. And we were thinking about, was it Forster's turn to play? And, he played well against Arsenal when he was playing for Southampton. And then it was Lloris, and Lloris didn't have one of the best games, which, again, if you kind of look at Twitter today, everyone's asking for his head and all this nonsense. But the goal, their second goal, which we'll come to a bit later on, obviously is Lloris' mistake. Yeah. But Paul, what do you make of it?
I think if we allow, we're more than happy as a team, I think, to allow midfielders to take those shots, because I'm telling you, if you roll that ball to Partey again, he's going to hit that ball again like that, probably another 2 out of 100 times. He's not going to hit a ball out all season, in my opinion. So I don't think that was against the game plan. That's just a great hit. That's just one in 100 that's gone in. Players tried to do that before against us, and Højbjerg's got out there and blocked. Bentancur's got out there and blocked. Davis has got his head on a couple of things. It's ricocheted wide. We do give up those. We do give up those shots, and the XG will be so low on a shot like that one is going to go in. I thought things a bit unfair on Hugo. That shot started a long way outside the post, a long way, and it moved a lot, and it came in. And I just put that down to a great goal. That won't happen that often for him or against us this season. It won't, in my opinion.
He's unlucky as well, because obviously Koulibaly's was a similar sort of thing, wasn't it? I think 10 times out of say 50, he's not going to score that either, and we got done by that one as well.
But look at all the shots that the Oppo midfielders try and take, and we do get out there and we get a block on it, or somebody gets like a head on it, or it goes wide or over. They've had like 4 or 5 minutes around our box, and they're getting desperate, so they just ping one from 25 yards. It ends up in the top of the south stand or in north, or well wide. It's just I think if you look at it percentage wise, we're going to give those shots up, and 1 or 2 are going to go in. That's just the way it is.
The weird thing for me after the goal went in, obviously it lifted the crowd more, is that that's when we sort of woke up. And I think a lot of people in the build up to the game were saying, let's hope that we kind of come out on the front foot and not wait for them to score, thinking back to Maddison tonight, that's what happened at Leicester, wasn't it? And then we did have a few kind of passages of play. We looked a bit better on the counter-attack. And then, thanks to Richarlison, it was a nice pass, wasn't it, over from Son. But kind of overhit, and then Richarlison sort of lost the ball, then kind of retrieved it back, and then kind of it was definitely a penalty. It took a long time for them to make the decision. I think was unfortunate, but what do we make of Kane's penalty?
Well, I mean, I think I know you said it was a nice pass from Son. I actually thought he overhit it, and there was a few. So I felt from the period of when we scored, when we equalised up until half time, was our best period of the game. And it's a cliche to say it, but half-time came at the wrong time for us, because if we'd have carried on playing for another 5-10, I reckon we'd have got another goal, right? I felt that, with Richarlison, he did what, he was direct, and he got the ball, and he was direct, and he got the foul, which caused the penalty, which is what we want from a counter-attacking play. But I think that it goes to the point as well that you've got I think you've got 7 outfield players who are involved in mainly defensive work, really. You got 3 up top, and your 3 up top, you'd say that Kane out of 3 is the creator bit. This is what we talked about before, and Kulu provides that. Richarlison and Son don't. And I think that's where we got to the goal, which is great. And then Kane, I think, he went down the middle because I think there was a bit of the old kidology of England training and all the rest of it. And I think I know what you're going to do. And that's what he did. And he was cool as you like. And in it went. And I think he reached a milestone, didn't he?
He scored the most goals in the North London derby, yeah. 40,
yeah, which is great. It's at that
point. And Henri was there to see it as well. Henri was there, so he saw it.
Yeah, they had a shot of him in the first half. I know he's one of the greatest players of all time. I can't stand him. Anyway, I think, the thing is, right, with Gooners, is that Ian Wright, I quite like Wrighty now. I like Wrighty now.
Yeah,
he's a great personality. He's had his trials and tribulations in his life, etc., but he's likable, right? And I've got a very good authority. He is genuinely a very nice bloke. But there's just something about Henri, I'm sure, is a lovely bloke. I can't stand him now. And he stopped playing however many years ago. But I digress. So, yeah, Kane's penalty was good. We're back in the game. And I think it's at this point, I'm thinking we're going to get a second.
And yeah, Paul, you agree with that?
I do agree. The goals, some of the guys saying in the comments there, Phil and people, we do seem to need that jolt. And it's fine. The way we play is fine margins, isn't it? It's got to come off really quickly and really slick. And we had opportunities in at their up against White. Perisic had White backpedaling to his own box and flashed the left foot, slashed across it, and it went wide. I mean, those are these are the fine margins that we have. And yeah, even in the goal, as you were saying, the pass was overhit, and we had to really scrap for it to get it back. And on especially last season and stuff, when we were really on it and we were knife through butter, all those passes were coming off the right weight, the right angle, 1 touch, 2 touch, bang, thanks for playing, we've scored. And when it doesn't come off, we don't look good. We don't, because the margins are so fine. But that period after they scored, and then we got a penalty. Definitely, I mean, we had 2 or 3 really quite decent breaks on another day. If, buts, maybes, whatever, it doesn't matter now. We got done, but it is. I repeat, it's just fine margins. And what I would say about the penalty was that he was standing there a long time. I think he's there for about a minute and 5. He's in there for about 65, 66 seconds while the ref sorting out no encroachment. Emerson Royale was arguing with Saliba, I think, at one point, and Kane just standing there with the ball, and it's the more he's waiting there, he's cool. Apart from Forest, he got saved, but you're thinking, oh, Harry, this is a big game. Yeah, you're away from home, but the guy's got he's got antifreeze running through his body. He's so cool, and just let's down the middle, just made Ramsdale look very, very, very stupid.
I think for us, we were watching at home. Me and Jack were saying, because obviously his penalty for England was so perfect. We were having that same conversation, and we were saying it reminded us of the Burnley game when that was near half time. And that was the one that he kind of mishit, didn't it? It kind of bobbled across the grass.
Yeah.
And then, this one was kind of in the middle. I don't think he particularly hit it that cleanly. But, I agree with what you're saying. It's because he keeps coming up against all these England goalkeepers. They've had this kind of, and that he's had these penalties. He's taken so many penalties in training with them. It's kind of trying to go from there. But, I'm delighted. I think it reminded me of when David scored at Newcastle and these goals that we seem to score before half-time. Højbjerg's at Fulham, and these sorts of, why are we scoring at this point in the game? But I agree, if we'd carried on, it might have turned into something else, which is, I think, why for me over half-time, I was certain that we were going to be the next team to score, and we were going to kind of push on from there, much like Bentancur scoring at Leicester. Going back to Kane's penalty as well, it's the 100th away goal as well, and that no one has ever achieved that. It's the first person to achieve that, which I think has kind of gone under the radar a little bit because everybody's angst over the final result. But he's got another thing there. But I just felt that Spurs were going to score second. I think I've said on Holly's show yesterday, we went behind at Southampton, we went behind at Leicester, and it was always this sort of feeling that it's okay, we can get a goal back, and then we did, and we push on from there, and they just kind of came out really flat, didn't they, Dave? Second half.
I mean, it's almost like Conte said to them that the Christmas party has been cancelled, and we're not doing it anymore because they came out and that was the opportunity, and we just did not perform whatsoever. And pretty much within it felt like 10, 15 minutes the second half, it was all over. Lost stock and barrels. And it was just mystifying. It was almost like you just kind of, well, what's happened here? I was absolutely mystified and pretty annoyed, to be honest. But, and we lost it. And they regrouped. And, there's a lot of discussion that's been on the Patreon site and Slack and stuff like that amongst cheeseheads about, the Gooners are going to fold. They're not mentally strong. I haven't played anyone good yet. Well, look at the fact of the matter is that moment in time when they lost they got an equaliser just before half time from us. They pretty much dominated most of that half, playing good football. You'd have thought, well, that's a mental test for them. But they came out and they didn't seem to be perturbed by it whatsoever. So whatever was said to them at half time or whatever tactical adjustments, psychologically they came out and they got to it. We didn't.
No. And then thinking about the goal itself. Paul,
where'd you start?
Describe your version of it.
Ben White didn't really push forward a lot in the first half. Didn't really need to because Saka had, he had Perisic on toast, basically. Perisic, as I keep saying, one-to-one defender is not required quality. Going forward, he's fantastic. As a one-to-one defender, he's not that good. So they push Ben White a bit more forward, and then he makes an overlapping run, a little bit like Emerson does with Kuzeski. And as soon as the opposition defender dummy run, cut back inside. What I don't understand about it is that we know what Saka's going to do. And if Saka gets the ball and faces the defender up, he's got no right foot. He has no right foot. He's going to cut inside and deliver or shoot with his left, and that's what happened. We allowed him to do that, and Hugo fumbles it. He for whatever he decides to do at that split second, it comes off. Romero doesn't really react to it. And we'll probably come on to Romero in a little bit because I've got a few things to say about Romero. And then obviously it looks like Hugo kind of dives over the ball, and Jesus just taps it in. It was a mess, and it's really annoying that it happened to Hugo because he saved us more points. There's a slide later on where I found some stats, and at the time as well, it's just like, oh shit, it's just and you just knew that any kind of forward momentum that we had at that point, it's going to be really hard to get back into that game. And it was from a mistake from our captain. It was the timing of it and the way that he celebrated in front of that lot at the clock end. Oh, it annoyed me, Becky. It annoyed me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. You summed it up very well there, Paul.
Yeah, I'd say that's a fair assessment of it. I was sat with Jack, and Jack's a goalkeeper. The day started badly, really, because he played in goal and lost 6-0. So I got back from Zumba and went, Jack, how did you get on? And he went, we lost 6-0. I went, oh, okay, no, never mind. He's like, yeah, but I'm the goalkeeper. And I'm like, I know, Jack, but I'm sure you did well. And So, yeah, and like I just said before, the fact that we weren't even certain Lloris was going to be playing, and for him to kind of make the mistake. And I think agreed there with Paul. I'm thinking even just in the recent games, the saves he made in the Fulham game, the saves he made in the Chelsea game, people have short memories when they're kind of asking for him to be, they should never have kept him and should have played someone else and blah, blah, blah. He has kept us in games. I was talking yesterday about how I still remember the penalty save from Abangman the year they didn't get in the Champions League, and I can remember Aguero's penalty save in the Champions League, and all those sorts of things. But unfortunately, when you're a keeper, it kind of comes down to you. The thing that was frustrating for me, I think, is this possibly because there's been an international break? I know Lloris wasn't on the international break and he returned, but Romero was. That Romero has definitely dropped in the kind of standard that we have come to know him to have now. He just didn't seem to command. He should have either oofed it into Rosette or he should have shouted for Lloris. It just seemed like kind of almost like a miscommunication. And, like you said, it just kind of went underneath Lloris, and it was just an easy tap in. But yeah, David, where are you kind of with Romero? What's happened to him?
I think he's, I think up to his injury. Sorry, I'm just waving at a child. Mine. up to his injury, to be clear, up to his injury this season, I thought, yeah, it was all right. After his injury, and he's come back, it looks like to me he's come back too early. I mean, against Sporting Lisbon, he was poor. And the Mitrovic goal, if I remember correctly, was that yeah, he was very poor on that. You know,
some people back.
Yeah, some people are saying on the Slack chat again that maybe he's got one eye on the World Cup and he's not really putting his effort in and this, that, and the other. I don't believe that for a second. I don't think that, you know, in this day and age, I know we're in unusual circumstances, but we've got all to fight for in a season now, and we're, you know, with the season's coming alive, and it's a 2-half season. We can't afford to lose things now. So I don't believe that. I just don't think he's playing very well. I'm not sure he's fully fit. And someone made a good point that if Davinson Sanchez had done the same thing, believe you me, I, who cannot stand Davinson Sanchez, would be right on it and saying, what's he doing? Get him out of the club. You know, in a way, Romero's obviously got far more credit in the bank because we've seen him last season, his quality. But some of his weaknesses are he does get caught on crosses. He gets done in the air a few times. His impetuousness, which I think he's kind of scaled back, but maybe that's at the cost of some of his aggression, which I know is a contradiction. He's just not playing very well at the moment. And the challenge that we've got is that who we got as backup? We've only got Sanchez. We got Tanganga. That's it.
Yeah. And I think because of the way Sanchez was at the Leicester game and that howler right at the beginning, although he did recover from it and did play better after that, yeah, Conte knows that, you know, Romero is streets ahead, isn't he? Streets ahead.
I think he's injured. I think I can't. We don't often agree. I think he's right. I think he's been rushed back a bit too quick. I also think he's on refs' radars now. I think such a big deal but got made about the Cucurella hair pull at Chelsea. I think refs are looking for him. I do. I don't think, you know, you can be that aggressive. We saw him nearly like break Soyuncu's leg last year at Leicester. If he mistimes that tackle, you know, it looks great. It's probably one of my favourite parts of the season. You know, real aggression, front foot, everything I like. But he gets that wrong, and you know he's going to injure a player, and he's off for he's going to be off, and he doesn't seem to be on the front foot anymore. I think he tracked Martinelli on Saturday. Before Royale got sent off, and Martinelli went about 35-40 meters with the ball. And I think it was like Romero just got fed up with him, and he fainted to tackle, and then he went in for the tackle, and he smashed the ball into row Z, but he also got Martinelli as well. You could see then he was getting wound up. But that's that aggression has not been there for the last couple of games. I don't know if he trusts himself, doesn't trust his body, or maybe Conte's told him, rein it in, just rein it back for a bit. And we need you. You know, Sanchez did have a howler, as you quite rightly said. I don't think Conte trusts Japhet Tanganga. I just don't see it. So you're right, and that right hand side, you know, opposition coaches have found out now, haven't they? He's like, let Emerson Royal have the ball. He's not going to hurt us with the ball, you know. And that's it. And if you take the ball carrying away from and you put something like Tanganga or even like Sanchez in there, that right hand side is an absolute accident waiting to happen. So I'd rather have Romero on the field at 75%. Than having somebody else there with Emerson Royal on the outside of him. Does that make sense? Because that's what I prefer.
Yeah, because I thought you could see that at Leicester. Sanchez didn't really know what to do with it, to pass to Royal or to give it to Luis, and that's when he would just seem to panic. But I noticed yesterday, Romero very rarely passes to Emerson. He kind of looks.
I don't think the team trusts him. I don't think the team trusts Emerson Royal in an offensive position with the ball, because when he has been the chance to put a ball in, probably 2 out of 10 and 20% of them don't even hit, don't even get to where they should be. I think you're right, Becky. I think it's like you are just basically there to occupy an opposition kind of, and hopefully that creates space for someone else. And that's a crying shame. We can't have that going forward. Not in this system with the coach. We can't have it. I'm not going to ball him out, because I thought he was doing okay defensively at the weekend before we'll come on to the red. But I thought he did okay. Martinelli is a good player. He's a good player, and I thought Royale was doing okay. He didn't mark him out of the game or anything, but he was perfectly adequate defensively in his job, what he had to do. But going forward with the team this season, we need to upgrade that. Well, we need to give someone else, and we will give someone else a go now because he's suspended. It's got to be Spence. It's got to be Spence. I don't think Doherty's up to task. I don't think he's fit yet. We can see that at the weekend when he came on as a sub. I think Spence forward in the league. I don't just drop him in there. Just drop him in there. He played for the under-21s last Friday night against Italy, and he was lightning. He was really good. Watch the game on YouTube. Fantastic. Cutting, decisive, good defending, up and down the wing. Brilliant. Really, really good. If he's playing against England, if he's playing for England under 21s against Italy under 21s, he's good enough to come into the Premier League, in my opinion. And we should then see us being a bit more dynamic with a bit of luck.
Yeah, I think look, Royale. I thought he was struggling. To be honest, I thought he was struggling. That's my view. I thought he was a bit panicky. I think he was being attacked a lot, and I don't think he was comfortable with that. And, the moment, we might as well talk about the moment, which basically finished off the game for us, is that, on balance of it, it probably was a red card. I just don't understand, even if it was a yellow or a red, I don't understand why he made that challenge at that time. He wasn't going anywhere. And it was just a brainless piece. It was just brainless. And there are some players who kind of instantly don't have a lot of footballing intelligence, right? That doesn't mean to say that if you don't have footballing intelligence, you're not a good player, right? We can cite many players over the years who were effective and good players, but you wouldn't say they had great intelligence of the game. And that what he did there, where the game was at that particular time, was just a stupid thing to do. So my views on him are well known. I don't rate him. He's not good going forward. We're playing with wing backs, and as I've talked about already, you've got 7 players who are kind of, a lot of their game is to do with obviously defending the goal. And if you're going to use your 2 wing backs as your offensive and to start moves and things like that, Emerson is just not capable of doing it. Now, what's going to happen in Europe is obviously he'll play because he's not suspended, obviously. The question is when we play Brighton, because half of me thinks that what Conte will do is play Sessegnon and Perisic, which I think will be ridiculous, but you can see it happening. And then he'll put Doherty in front of Spence. Now, I'm not saying this to disagree with you, Paul. I kind of think it's almost getting a little bit of the Conte principle, Conte proving a point that Spence is the club signing. It wasn't his signing, although he's making positive noises about him and he's trying very hard in training. But if he's going to really put a right wing back on, it will be Doherty. It will not be Spence.
Who do you think, Becky?
Well, I thought that it would be Doherty now, that he would give a run. I think we saw Sessegnon and Perisic, didn't we, at Leicester? But as soon as Maddison scored, he switched them. So again, Conte's not sure which is the right position for those two, so that means he's not sure. And then, so I thought it'll be Doherty who had a bit of a run. He played for Ireland in international, and then listen to the press conference from this afternoon. And if I find the quote to say exactly what he says, bear with me. What does he say? So this is exactly what he says. He says, and apparently in the press conference, nobody mentioned Doherty. He just sort of says it, Conte says it himself. So he says, not seeing him in the right way to start a game. I'm not stupid. I don't want to lose. Which for me, after the praise that he came out with Doherty after that run of games that he had before he got injured and how he was almost being really confident with him, it just seems a very kind of prickly comment to make. That I know he said before the international break that Doherty needed more matches and he needed more minutes, and then he's had more minutes. But that kind of comment for me, it was like, he's not going to play Doherty either. And then he went on to say about Spence, the fans, bear me, this is what he said word for word. I know it's not grammatically right. He said, the fans is the fans. I understand they think everything, but I see every day what happens during training sessions. I try to do the best for the team. If I didn't decide to pick a player, it may be because he's not ready. So he's sort of reiterating again that Spence is not ready, despite what Paul just said. And I agree with everything he said there about the under-21s and about how he played. And bearing in mind, he was playing with Skip and he was playing with Sessegnon as well. It just sounds like Spence.
Adogi came on the second half for Italy.
For Italy. Yeah. So it just sounds like Emerson and Doherty, Spence and Doherty are not in his thoughts. And you know, those 3 games will come and go quite quickly as well. So the other issue, we talked about this before, is if he does start Sessegnon gets injured, then that will even force his hand even further, and Doherty will have to come on, won't he? But yeah, it just seems an unfortunate situation. We talked about this, like you said, with Kulusevski not playing. It felt like it was an opportunity to change things up, and he didn't change the formation, and now it's an opportunity to change things with the wing backs, and it sounds like he's just going to go back to Perisic and Sessegnon. Quite stubborn. But then I've spoken to Chelsea fans and they said that was a kind of a trait of when he was with them. He was quite stubborn, and also someone put on Twitter, didn't they, yesterday, that when they lose 3-0 to Arsenal and then they went on like a 15-game unbeaten run.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I didn't comment, but I was going to comment something along the lines of, yes, but we don't have the same players as Chelsea. We don't have the same quality as Chelsea. So that isn't, you know, if that happened, that would be astronomical. I can't see being what's
you're looking for someone like Son to recapture what we know Son to be, because everybody seems to forget that Hazard was world class that season. Yeah. And Diego Costa, as Dave and I were talking about before we started this, Costa was like running through brick walls for Conte as well up front. Those 2 players, and obviously we have the well-known. He made the guy into the right wing back before, Victor Moses. A lot of things fell in place that time for him at Chelsea, especially Hazard. Hazard was unplayed. He was like Bale under AVB last season. It was he was tremendous, Eden Hazard, that season. He's fantastic.
And no European football, remember?
No European football as well. So you have to see what when fans start talking about like what he did at Chelsea. Yes, there are parallels, but also as well, he had like a battering ram of a forward, but he also had like a world class attacking winger / midfielder. Sorry.
Yeah. So I suppose the next thing it says in the run sheet is the substitutions, which I suppose we have kind of skirted around because we've talked about all the other players. So was it? We've got a slide, haven't we? What was the time when the first substitution was taken? 71. So 71 minutes in a game that you're assuming is going to go to 95 minutes. I know Royal have been sent off, and I think I agree in the sense that although some people are saying it's harsh and it should have been a yellow, I've seen those given and I've seen people sent off them. The thing that frustrated me about the sending off, and I agree with what you both just said, it was going nowhere. It was going to the corner. It was back to goal. It's almost like he kind of mistimed his run and just sort of accidentally kind of caught the bit between his trainer and his ankle. But like I said, you've seen those given. The thing for me is it wasn't really a North London derby kind of game for those kind of tackles. That was the only bad tackle in the whole game. The only other incident was when that person pulled Sonny's shirt, didn't he, on like the halfway line, and the ref played advantage. But for a North London derby, it wasn't that kind of game. I said yesterday in the Holly show on the Facebook page, I predicted 5 yellow cards and there was only 3. It just wasn't that kind of game. So to bring out a straight red for that, you know, and it just seemed, obviously for us, it ended the game completely. And from a neutral's point of view, which I know we're not, that was it. It was over. And, you know, they scored quickly before we'd even managed to kind of get some sort of shape. And then we're thinking, well, it's 71 minutes. You know, he's been sent off at 62. It took a long time to make the substitutions as well, I think. That was the other thing. They were sort of standing on the side, weren't they? And they're still kind of playing it round, and you're thinking, get on with it, because he got sent off at 62. And then he makes those 4 substitutions. And have we got a slide of them for those people not sure what they were? But they were Sanchez, Bissouma, Sessegnon and Doherty all at the same time.
No, we don't have a side. Sorry.
Right. So those four. For those, he took off Son, didn't he? Richarlison, Longley, and Perisic, of course. Perisic. So in other words, took off our two kind of attacking players. Kane, as usual, plays every minute of everything, England included. Yeah. And then I sort of said to Jack and went, "Oh, well, that's it then. He's obviously given up and we're just thinking to Frankfurt on Tuesday." And even Jack went, "What? There's loads of time left. It's only 3-1 type thing." And I said, "Yeah, but I think that's kind of what he was thinking." What do we think about the subs?
I have to admit, at the time, they were well in the ascendancy, and I was worried. I was worried it could get really nasty, and they were. And I think Conte. I didn't go at the game. I know Steve Diver WhatsApped me during the game and said like those subs were met with a few boos and stuff like this. I think Conte made the right decision. I think it was damage limitation. I also think that the momentum was so in their favour that it felt a little bit like Bayern Munich when we got done 7-2. He's like, we got a couple of goals back and we were in the ascendancy, and then Poch went on Lamella and a few other attacking players, and then we got done 7-2. Serge Gnabry scored a lot, etc. We know how that worked out. It's if he hadn't shored it up, it could have gone. I thought 5-6. It could have. I think they really scented blood. The blood was in the water, and they were going to go for it and turn our gas off. I felt, and I think Conte wanted to break the play up and get legs on, and yeah, he did. He settled for the score the way it was, which is a shame. I wasn't at the game. I think if I was at the game and watching that lot celebrate around me in that whole of a stadium, I would have been annoyed. But looking back at it and watching it back again, I think it was at that time, without being revisionist about it, I think it was the right thing to do. That's tough to take. I know we want to beat them and to dare to do and all that lot. I get that. I understand that, but it was the right thing to shore it up. I think those subs are fine.
Dave, agree with that?
Look, initially I was trying to get tickets, and asking Mr. Diver. And because the game was a lunchtime kickoff, the only TV slot, I couldn't go to the game, then I couldn't go. But I think with my heart, if I'd have been in the away end at the Emirates, and I've never been in the away end at the Emirates, I've been plenty of times at the library, and I'm there with at least one of my kids going to that game in the hostile atmosphere that it is, and they're all celebrating, and I'm seeing with 25 minutes to go, 4 are taken off with the sole intention of preserving a 3-1 defeat. In the heat of the moment, I'd have been extremely angry about it, right? Watching it on the telly, I thought to myself, I see it makes sense because, one, what's the point of someone getting injured? We've lost this. What's the point of someone getting injured? We've got a game on Tuesday night in a group where we've lost 1 and 1-1. And I agree with Paul again. It could have got really nasty. I think we get beat 5-2 or 6-2 there at one point when we were 2-0 up under Redknapp. It could have been as nasty as that. So, I think that if Conte doesn't win the trophy for us, and it all ends tomorrow, it's going to end at some point. Some people will be looking back at the point where he takes off 4 at 3-1 down in the North London derby, raising the white flag, as a defining moment as his reign. We'll see how the narrative goes. So I can see both sides to it.
Yeah, I can as well. And like I said, at the time, you're thinking, I agree. Once they'd scored that third, they were going for it. But it's bringing, like we said, even just bringing Basuma on and sort of changing the formation. I know we've got one less player, but the kind of that side of it, it was the fact that it was all 4 of them, and then only a few minutes later it was Skip as well. It was just, it was over. And like, I think I agree with you. It's a bit like the Burnley game when we lost that 1-0, that midweek game, and it was all doom and gloom, and he was moaning and groaning, and by all accounts, today's press conference has been quite kind of grumpy. It was like, right, this is the turning point. And, Spurs have tried, haven't they? So we've had the NFL, and we can kind of mention the NFL a little bit later on, but the whole idea is that they're doing the whole, our focus turns to Frankfurt, and we're now thinking about Frankfurt. And of course, everyone's in the comments going, well, you didn't really have any focus for Arsenal and that sort of thing. But if it is going to be something they're going to use, I think I said yesterday, there may be even more, we've heard about Basuma possibly having a knock, and we're saying possibly, I think Romero, we don't know how kind of fit Kane was after playing all those minutes. There may have been more going on. It was just, I think when the fixtures came out and we saw that the North London derby was a 12:30 following an international break, even then we were thinking, oh, this isn't going to be great, is it? And it kind of turned out that although we didn't really come back with injuries, apart from Kulusevski, the whole kickoff time, it's just, it just, they didn't have the desire that the supporters did. And I think that's what's frustrating. And that's supposed to be where the booze came from, is that nobody wants to kind of shut up shop today. And like you said, a lot of people spent a lot of money, and it's that, everybody wants it to be as best as it can, but he's kind of got to step back, which I think is possibly why he's been a bit prickly in the press conference today, saying that, we said something yesterday that, he doesn't pick his team according to Twitter. And he's got these trophies, but that only comes to a certain point. If it's going to mean we win something and we, get the kind of the delight that we are so keen for, then that's fine and it's all forgotten. But October is a massive month. There are so many matches, and he's possibly thinking he's got to, keep people for that. But I think it also comes back to the idea that he doesn't think he's necessarily got the squad. He's said that before, hasn't he? That there are areas that he isn't trusted. We just said before then about Doherty and Spence, and although people from the outside are saying, well, actually, you've got Spence and you've got these people and you've got Basuma, and he's a bit like, nope, this is what we're going to do, and time will tell.
He doesn't like being questioned.
No,
I think what he's saying today, basically what he's saying about, like, I look at the players day in, day out. He's like, I see them, shut up, I know what I'm doing, trust me. If he wants that as a fan base from us, as much as we love him at the moment, that'll turn quite quickly.
Yeah.
You've been in the stadium, Becky, like I have. Dave, you're probably watching the TV. It's like Antonio, we sing his name when it's going right, and he's got credit in the bank, don't get me wrong. But if he carries on, like, and he's asked for players and he's got players early like he wanted, but he's not playing them, people are going to ask questions. And if he doesn't like questions, then you've got a fan base asking one thing, and you've got the manager saying, like, leave me alone, I see them day in, day out. And of course, you have to trust him. His record speaks for itself, but I don't want to have this kind of like this battle between him and, like, the fans. And it seems like he's just saying he's that way. As I see the day in, day out, leave me alone. But it's when you see, like, your nearest rivals and your most kind of, like, your fiercest rivals do you the way you did, and then you shut up shop and try and. I can see why people are going to question him, and people will carry on questioning him until it gets better again. And I think we're in for a bit of a rough ride, certainly this month with him, because I think he will be questioned with, two games up until the World Cup.
I think also go on, Dave.
The fact remains is we've lost 2 of the last 3 games.
Yeah,
we have.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we have.
And like Leicester 6-2, I'm not buying into that's the worst 6-2 I've ever seen nonsense, or booing them off at half time at a 2-2 nonsense. The fact remains is some chunks of that Leicester game, Leicester were really good going forward, and we looked shaky at the back because he tried to put together some kind of second string back 3 at the time. What was interesting is that what does it mean? What did it mean in terms of subs that came on and didn't come on? So Hill didn't come on, Spence didn't come on, which Spence fine. I mean, you either have Spence or Doherty, that makes sense. And then you had Skip come on, but Skip and Doherty played like 2 players who hadn't played in the Premier League for a long time. They looked
very nervy, didn't they? Very nervy.
I mean, they're going to go, lads, you haven't played in the Premier League for ages. North London derby, 3-1, down 10 men. Yeah. And I'm raising the right flag. On you go. See how you go.
Yeah.
I thought, I mean, to be fair, Skip, he lost the ball a few times, but as those 20 minutes went on, he got a bit better. But Skip's probably a bit tired. Skip's probably a bit tired coming on at the Emirates.
Yeah, and I think that's just Matt's sharpness in it. That'll come back. You could see he's still got that really great touch, and that kind of vision is still there. It's just the sharpness, and I think that will come. Doherty just looked like a rabbit in headlights. And I said that yesterday, that this idea that they've got to come in and slot in and be amazing when they slot in, and then if they don't, they're back down the pecking order. That pressure is quite a lot to take. And Doherty seized his opportunity last time, and then at the moment he's really struggling to kind of get back in that position. But yeah, he looked really quite nervy yesterday. Yeah, it's not the type of play we want to see. And like I said, the Leicester and the Arsenal games couldn't have been different. Now, there were similarities to yesterday's Arsenal game from the one in May. They started quite well. We got the penalty. We kind of went from there. There was a sending off and things went in our way, and our momentum kind of gained. And on Saturday it was almost like the exact opposite for Arsenal. Tomorrow is going to be, the atmosphere is going to be absolutely nuts. And if they score early, it could be absolute carnage. I think heads will drop. It's going to be quite interesting to see, first of all, how he kind of lines up, and if he does, stick with the same formation, more or less the same team that sort of started against Leicester, because it just sounds like he isn't going to play Spence or Doherty. So it's saying here, it's the first time we've played Frankfurt since 1982. I don't have any memories of that game. I was 2. Do you have any memories of that game when we played them?
No.
I do.
No. Do you?
Yeah.
Go on then, tell us.
Well, I put it in the run sheet, so I'm being self-indulgent. Apologies. Look, self-indulgent. Why? Never. We played in the I think we played in the quarterfinals of the 1982 Cup Winners' Cup. We got a goalish advantage in the first leg at home. We then played a Milk Cup final, which we lost in extra time, having been 1-0 up. 2 minutes ago, Ronnie Whelan equalised, and they won 3-1. Gutter.
I've heard of him.
And then we went to Germany, and it transpired much later on. There's a great book called, I think, The Boys from White Hart Lane, which is interviews of the squad. Great book if you want to read it, about the 80s team. And Gary Brooks said that he kind of busted Ardiles' rib in training. They patched him up, and Ardiles had to come off after 10 minutes, and they were losing. And then I think Hoddle got a late goal, and they went through on away goals. And Gary Brooks got a massive bollocking. So I don't think we've played them since then. Happy to be proven wrong. That's my trip down memory lane, self-indulgently.
Cool. And you managed to get Hoddle in there as well.
Yeah.
So going back to the current Frankfurt team, it says that I noticed this because I Googled them yesterday. They beat Union Berlin on Saturday. So I don't know, it doesn't always mean anything, the previous result, does it? But I was like, I knew that when we did the Champions League show, and that night where we did the teams that we were going to play, and me and Jack did all that kind of ins and outs and all that business. I remember looking into Frankfurt. At the time, they were like 15th in the league. But they beat Union Berlin, who are apparently top the Bundesliga. So HD.
I was surprised about that.
Yeah, me too. HD has very kindly done us some notes, because when John asked me to host this afternoon, I was like, I don't know anything about Frankfurt, but there's lots of things written down here. He says that the best players are Trapp, the goalkeeper, Tuta and Ndika. And I remember Ndika because in the summer when we were talking about centre-backs and possible centre-backs that we were going to buy, his name came up a lot. We've got Kamada, Lindstrom, and then it says Kolo Muani. But HD thinks that the full-backs are going to be the weaknesses. And it says here that they've signed Mario Götze, who HD thinks is actually holding them back, but he missed training apparently today, so he may not be even be playing. Anything else to add about Frankfurt?
Yeah, well, I didn't know that Union Berlin for a start were top of the Bundesliga until I was doing my little bit of research on them for the run sheet today, and I think they play the same formation that we do on a 3-4-3. Now, let me get this right. Who have they lost to thus far in the Champions League, in this group?
Marseille, yeah.
Marseille. Right, so Marseille have beaten them. And did they beat Sporting Lisbon? I thought they did.
I don't know.
So I almost feel...
Have Marseille lost both? Marseille lost both teams. One team's lost both games. That might be Marseille.
Okay.
I didn't think it was Frankfurt. No, they won the first game 2-0, I think. Frankfurt beat somebody 2-0. Yeah, or 3-0. Does it say 3-0?
So does it feel? It can't be mathematically correct. It feels like each team's won one game, but it can't be correct mathematically.
No, they haven't.
but-
Somebody's definitely lost both.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Frankfurt beat Marseille away on the 13th September.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so Marseille have lost both games. Sporting's 1-1, we've won 1, and Frankfurt's 1-1. So it's away. We played at lunchtime. We're going into a Tuesday night game. You know, I would like to think he's going to make some changes to freshen things up. And I'm even looking at Højbjerg and Bentancur. I just don't see how it's sustainable that we're playing a formation where other teams are starting to learn to overload us in that midfield area, which we're saying is negated by one of the back three stepping in and providing that extra resource, even though, you know, your Sanchez, Romero's are not really up to it at the moment. I would like to see a change there. I'm not saying I don't think it will happen. It should happen. Emerson will definitely play because he's going to be suspended. And then the question whether he brings back Cesc or keeps Perisic. But, you know, I just have to, you know, the reality is in the way we play is just that you know what's going to happen. Soak up a lot of pressure and try and hit him on the counter. If we're going to do that, we need to kind of freshen things up. But Kulu's out for 2 weeks. So he's, you know, so you could put forward an argument of doing a 3-5-2 and putting Richarlison on the bench or Son and then having Basuma in the middle and freshen things up. I don't think it's going to happen.
I've got to agree. I don't think he will freshen it up. I think he'll just, you know, he likes to use the word, the players have got to suffer. Probably means the fans as well at some point. And Royal will play definitely. And I think it'll be Perisic on the other side, and I think it'll probably be pretty similar to, you know, apart from it'll probably be pretty similar to what started at the weekend. I think, you know, he's probably thinking, okay, I don't want to lose this. If I get an away win, then that's great, but yeah, I don't see that many changes. To be honest, I've just contradicted myself. Yeah, thinking about it now, I don't think he will change it. I think it'll be 3-4-3, just like at the weekend.
Kerry makes a good point that she says she's just wishing for set pieces. I think because we think about the goals that we've scored this season from set pieces, when they haven't come from crosses from Kulusevski, they've been set pieces, haven't they? The amount of goals that we've scored from back headers and things from set pieces. I just worry that we go 1-0 down and the crowd gets even louder and noisier and it just sort of unravels from there. And it's the lack of switch up options, because he doesn't seem, you know, whether he's saying it's because Basuma has a knock or he's not ready yet, that kind of opportunity to switch it up if things aren't going well. We always had that at Leicester. We always knew that was something that we could try at Leicester. And when we haven't got that, it just shows how incredibly important Kulusevski has ended up being. And without him, it's just a completely different thing. We said right at the top of the show that, you know, Richarlison is not the right winger. And without that kind of option, you know, when Royal isn't going forward and isn't as useful going forward, it's that whole side just isn't really utilised. And set pieces, but not free kicks. And for anyone who's watched the Leicester game tonight, Maddison scored a free kick. It was a fantastic free kick. I was quite pleased though, because I've got Maddison in my fantasy league team. And with not having Jesus or Haaland in my fantasy league team, I need help from other players, because Kane's always my captain. But yeah, so we, you know, having a set piece taker, we had that free kick, didn't we, on Saturday? We had the one free kick. I remember by that point, Son had gone off, Perisic had gone off, and Jack was like, "Well, Kane will take it." I went, "Yeah, he will." And then even if, you know, Son was on, it would be Dyer that I think takes him before Son does. Despite Son scoring of the South Korea. And that one, did it hit somebody's shin or their thigh? It wasn't even kind of head height, was it? It was just
it was Kane and Dyer standing next to each other.
Yeah.
And I was sat there going, well, this is not going to go anywhere, is it? And sure enough, it didn't.
Yeah. But yeah, so it'd be interesting. It'll be an interesting watch. You know, Twitter's Spurs is very reactive at the moment. Obviously, it's the manner we lost, I think, to them lot. I think, no, we don't want to lose to Arsenal, do we? And it's just the manner that we did.
Sorry to interrupt. People have these excuses about the midfield, about how we get back. They've been on the back burner for a while. People. It seems like some people can't wait to drop that in when we lose. I've been fairly vocal about it's a performance-based, it's a results-based business. The performances don't really matter that much as long as you get the results. When we look back at the history books in 4, 5, 6 seasons time, I don't think we're going to remember, unless you're Dave with an encyclopedic memory, but we're not going to remember about who played and we got someone on a break and didn't we have a really quite poor right wing back or anything like that. It was going to be. We're looking at it and think, yeah, we won. We won 28 games out of 32 or 33 or whatever we won. It just seems as well that at the minute, as you say, Spurs Twitter at the minute is not a very nice place, but to engage with or even read. But it seems like a lot of people can't wait to basically say, I told you so. I told you so.
Yeah.
This performance, it's been coming. This is the phrase. It's been coming. Well, in other news, water's wet. We were going to lose. We were going to lose at some point. Unfortunately, we got beaten and we got a player sent off, and it was against our rivals. A good performance, a good result tomorrow night, and at the weekend as well. I know Brighton are not. I know they're not easy, but a good performance there, and it'll be rosy again. I think it's that reactionary and it's that fickle. I think Tune in next week.
But that's the nature of Twitter. Isn't that
it's the nature of modern football. It's the nature of modern football. It's like I told you so. I told, and if you get like a pylon, and anyway, I'm not going to go because that's not what we're here for. But it's the nature of the modern football fan. Very reactionary. Becky said it earlier. Very short memories. There's no balance. There's no equilibrium with these guys. Nothing.
I'd say it's the nature of modern life, but let's not go there, shall we? And move on.
No. It seems quite a good point here to sort of talk about the other fixtures of the weekend. I know we don't normally do this, but there were some quite outstanding features of some of the results over the weekend, noticeably Haaland yesterday. We have a theory in our house, because we're fortunate enough that we get to watch most of the games. We usually turn the game off when City have scored. And again, that was like 7 minutes or something, was it this week? 8 minutes, there we go. But I thought, no, Dave's a Liverpool supporter. He was, wanting to see how United fared. So we've sort of carried on watching it. But yeah, Foden's also in my fantasy league team. By the way, I haven't got Haaland, but I have got Foden. 2 hat-tricks. And the thing I read yesterday is Haaland is only 9 goals off Sonny's Golden Boot record from last season, and it is October, which I think the only word for him is beast, isn't it, Paul? For Haaland?
He's a specimen. He really is. He's got the pace. He's got the acceleration. He's got the touch. He's playing in a team built that's playing really, really, really well. Been really well coached. He that first half yesterday, he was superb. He really was superb. Maybe our game when it was postponed might have been a little bit of a Brucey bonus. Because obviously, he might when we play that game probably post World Cup, he might not be in that rich. I'm see those straws. You see me grasping at them.
That's a straw. I have.
Exactly.
That is a straw.
He's phenomenal. I love watching him. He's got just like from a fitness and conditioning point of view, he's insane. He's insane.
Yeah. He was just everywhere, wasn't he, on the end of it? And he almost nearly scored a perfect hat-trick as well. I noticed that the third goal was with his right foot. And I was saying to Jack, if that was left, it's a perfect hat-trick. It's just, is the season, is the Premier League over, Dave? Is that it now? Are they done? Have they won it?
Yeah, I
honestly know they're not top, by the way.
They are, honestly, they are. It's interesting context really, because allegedly or whatever, they put was it a 75 million bid plus add-ons for Kane this time last year. Paratici says to Kane, well, they don't really want you if they're going to bid that. And then obviously they invoke the Dortmund clause and bring him in, and they're paying him a fair amount of money. And I suspect there may be some kind of tacit agreement or otherwise that 3 years' time, Madrid's calling, you can go. But depends on how things go. But, the fact about him is that he's not going to the World Cup. He's got 5 weeks off, right? And he's going to be, if he's got carrying any niggles or anything like that, he's got 5 weeks off and he's coming back into it. I would say the thing about City, if they don't win the Champions League this year with him, they never will. And that's what makes me laugh about City fans, because you hear him on phone-ins. Good old man candy at the start of last year. City aren't bothered about the Champions League. It's a league. Well, I've never seen a City fans cheering when they're getting into the semi-final, final Champions League. It's a load of old bollocks. He's a great player. Unfortunately, he is in my fantasy league. I did captain him. I did play the wild card this week, and I've got Maddison, and I picked Maddison. So, sorry. Someone in my family had an argument with me about the fact that they felt my Jack said to me, Luca Toni should be captain this week and not Haaland, and I'm mad. And look what happened to Toni, look what happened to Haaland. Happy days.
Yeah, isn't that like 64 points or something if you wildcard him and he got 3 hat-tricks? It's like the points are nuts. I'm sure I saw someone who had him and you were like, wow.
All you do is just have Haaland as captain, regardless. That's how you play the game. He's like Salah captain last year. Yeah, I know. But for me though, if they don't win everything, then it should be over for Pep, shouldn't it? Because he's got, arguably the best team he's ever had, and this should be their strongest chance to get as far as they do. And if they don't, then. But I've read a lot today that everyone's like he's going to break all of Kane's records and he's going to do blah 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 blah. Hopefully he only stays for like 2 seasons and then he goes, because we need to have a situation where there is actually some competition back, because otherwise it's just really, really boring and it's then just a race for top 4, and we need a little bit more, don't we? The only thing about City, I would say, is they feel slightly looser at the back than previous seasons. They feel a bit more brittle at the back. If you have a go at them, you might get something. But the reality is you got him at the other end. It doesn't really matter.
No. So Brighton. Now I watched that game on Saturday because Dave's a Liverpool supporter. So it was 2-0, wasn't it? And then they had that funny own goal, and then the mistake, and they went 3-2 up, and then Brighton scored. But Brighton, went to Anfield how all Spurs fans would like us to go to Anfield, on the front foot, really open, really attacking, going at Liverpool. But the one thing I said yesterday on Holly's show is that Conte came out and said, didn't he, when we beat Wolves, he said something along the lines of, we lost to them last year. And when we beat Southampton, he went, we lost to them last year. And hopefully, after the Frankfurt game, we've got past that, he's saying to those players, remember how it felt when we lost that 1-0 to Brighton, because nobody thought that we were going to lose to Brighton that day. That, it was another early kickoff, but it was so much confidence in the ground and the media, and it was just going to be a formality. And then some lackadaisical marking again from Romero and Dyer, and then they won 1-0. So hopefully he uses that to say how we kind of turn that around, because Brighton they're there for a reason, even with their change of manager, haven't they? Because Potter's gone to Chelsea. Yeah. Brighton are going to be tough, aren't they, Paul?
They're not going to completely forget what their coach for the last 2 or 3 seasons has coached them. I know we've got one of their better players, one of their best players, and Cucurella's gone. But Trossard annoys me. He annoyed me when he scored in the 93rd minute with a stupid little toe poke, and I need to apologise to Celia and Dave and all the people around me, because I just went absolutely mental at that game. It was so annoying, and I think it was a week when we lost again. I think we might have lost to Southampton, or we lost another game, and it just seemed like it's Brighton, and like they didn't really create anything, and Trossard pops up, and that really annoyed me last season. I watched the Brighton Liverpool yesterday, and they went for it, didn't they? Verve, a little bit of kind of like strength. They broke really, really well. They held the ball really well. They're well drilled. They're all really kind of technically like well versed. The coach has been smart. He's seen what's gone in before him, and he's not changed it. If it's not broken, add a little bit here, a little bit there. But the souffle is a souffle. Just add a little bit more ingredient. That's what You know, don't turn the temperature up and then blow it, or don't change any of the ingredients. It's kind of like, you know, it's good. It's good, and all he's got to do is just keep that rolling and bring new through. It will be tough. It will be tough down there. I'll be ecstatic for a draw. Ecstatic.
I never thought I'd live to the day of hearing you have a souffle metaphor.
Okay. Well, I don't know. A steak. I don't know.
No. Let me get it. I admire your souffle metaphor. I love a souffle. I was never expecting you to use that as a metaphor, and I respect that. You may think I'm taking the piss. I'm not.
I think there's an insult there, but I'm probably too
There's
dense.
no insult. I promise you, there's no insult. I just never expected you to have a souffle metaphor about Brighton.
Becky, you're a deputy head. Can we put him in detention or something? Can we give him some lines or something? Can we do something? Teacher, look at him. He's
I appreciate
me.
it. I appreciate normally on the Monday night show, I get a bit leery in the comments section as I'm on my commute to work in Sydney, and here I am live. I genuinely respected your souffle metaphor, and I'd have said that in the comments.
The thing that I really liked about their manager is I don't know who he is, but I like the fact that he ignored Klopp, didn't he, for the handshake, and he kind of walked away from him, and everyone was like, "Oh, there was a superb meme in that," but the cameraman kind of shot away. Yeah, to see Klopp's face when he didn't shake hands with him. Quality.
Klopp's under pressure, I think.
Yes.
I think now the screw's beginning to turn a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see if they drop away a little bit over pre World Cup. A lot of games.
And they've done the same as us, haven't they? They've won one and lost one, and they're in the Champions League tomorrow as well, and they're like making a big thing of that as well. It will be interesting.
Yeah, that is an interesting one, because I was talking to kind of a family member on the weekend, and they were very negative about Liverpool this season. The big Liverpool fans. He was proudly telling me he'd been to every European final they've been in, wherever it's been, and he said the look of the players' faces, the body language when they lost that Champions League final, he thinks there's a bit of a hangover there, like we had after 2019.
Yeah.
And to go to back it onto us at the moment, I would argue that pretty much most times, or the first initial times we've qualified for the Champions League, has always been the fact that one of the big four, so to speak, have underperformed. So last season, we effectively took United's place, who had a joke of a season. I think the season we qualified with Redknapp, maybe it was Liverpool or someone that didn't qualify. And other times when Chelsea have had a bad year, we've capitalised. So, you know, if we're going to keep top four, and I think the Gooners have got a good chance of getting top four, it's possible that Liverpool will miss out. I don't think Chelsea will miss out.
I don't think Arsenal.
Salah's off, though. Salah's off for the World Cup. He's not playing.
I don't think Arsenal's got the squad to kind of keep it to the end. I was saying to somebody yesterday that, you know, as we know, the Thursday is draining mentally, physically. You know, the fixtures on the Sunday, you know, even things like diets and, you know, when they eat and when they sleep, and all of that is affected. I don't think, and I'm hoping it's as Joe, that they don't have it to kind of get to the end, and they won't kind of have enough. Won't have kind of collected enough points now, as it were, to kind of see them through. I think
the only thing I'd say to that is that, sorry to interrupt, the only thing I'd say to that is their Europa group, I'm pretty sure it's all Western Europe. They're not going to Eastern Europe at all.
Far away.
And that makes a big difference.
I don't think they're that bothered about it. I don't think Arteta's taken his... And I know, as you know, I live in Brixton in South London, and the shirts have been out in force today. So I got chatting to a few of them today when I'm in Manger, if you're watching. It's a coffee shop in London. And they were like, we don't care about, all it is about Champions League for us getting back to where we rightly belong, whatever, mate. But it's I don't think they're bothered, Becky, about Europa. They'll throw it. I mean, I think he's going all in for a top four finish. Which
Poch did. Poch threw it. In the season we came third out of second or whatever it was, he threw it. We got the quarterfinals or something. He played a whole bunch of... I think old Clinton and G had a run out, and he threw it. And I think the same will happen.
We'll see. So, predictions for tomorrow night, first of all. I'm going to go with 1-1. tomorrow? Dave?
I can't go the same as you. I can't predict a defeat because I get pelters from Mr. Muir. I'm going to go an extremely dull 1-0 with the ball going in off Royale's arse in the 93rd minute, and redemption is all his.
Oh.
I think we'll win 2-0. I think it'll be hard fought. It's not going to be pretty, but I think what I've seen in Frankfurt in the Champions League highlights of the previous games, previous weeks, they don't look great. Okay, either do we at points, but I think we should have enough to put 2 goals past them and get a very welcome win.
So, Paul, if we win 2-0, will it either involve Royale's arse or a souffle?
It will be Harry Kane and it'll be Heung-min Son.
Yes. Oh, what forgot to say. One bit of good Sonny news. Have to slot some Sonny news in. He got match of the day, September goal of the month, didn't he? Which was quite right too. I was like, yes, none of this Ivan Toney business. Yes. So hoorah.
Which one was it? Pardon
I don't know. I haven't looked back. That's a very good question.
I think it's the second one.
No, was it the second one?
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Because in the Spurs one, I voted the first one just because of the whole sort of not scoring for 9 games, 8 games thing around it for me. But yeah, they were both. The second one probably was the better goal.
He'll click.
Right,
he's gonna. Sorry, Beck. He's a little bit like I'm not gonna use any more metaphors because Mr. Australia.
Come on.
No, he'll come back. He's too good to carry on like this. He's too good, and when he does, stand by. Just stand by. You can see he wants it. You can see it's hurting him. You can see he's like taking it almost personally, which is not a great, kind of like neuroscience thing to do. But when he does come back, freaking stand by, because I think he's going to go on. We know he's streaky, but we know he hasn't had this dip in form for this amount of time. And okay, the hat trick helped in the previous game, but in the Champions League, it'll happen, and it'll happen in the league as well. I'm fully confident of that, and and let's hope it's soon.
Yeah, amen to that. Well, that's a good thing to end on. We've been going for an hour and 17 minutes. Thank you, everybody that's been watching. If you haven't already done so before you go, please hit the like button. And we're back on Friday to review the Frankfurt game and then preview the Brighton game, which, as far as we know, is going ahead. I know there's a train strike, isn't there, on Saturday? But really, if the train strikes carry on, Brighton can't cancel every game because there's a train strike. They'll never actually get their fixtures finished, will they? So there has to come a point where we're just going to have to do the fixtures, aren't they?
M25, M23 in it to Brighton.
Yeah, it's because you can't park anywhere, isn't it, near by the ground? But I know there's a subsidised coach. Spurs have put subsidised coaches and things on. Anyway, we digress. But yeah, thank you to everyone that's been watching. Thank you, Dave, for joining us from Hertfordshire and not Australia. Have a safe trip back.
Thank you very much for going back Thursday night. It's been a pleasure reading some of my family's comments in the comment section. I hope they've gone to bed, but we'll see shortly. But lovely to be on. Lovely to be on with you, Becky, because I haven't been on with you for a very long time. So it's very nice to see you. Mr. Muir, always a pleasure, souffle or otherwise.
Yeah.
And thank you, Paul, for being here.
No problem at all. Becky, well done for hosting. Good job. Natural, mate. You're a natural. So yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it tonight. It's been nice. It's like nice to go over the game again and have your point of view and Dave's point of view as well. And it's kind of cathartic in a way as well, which is nice. And but loved it. And good job hosting, Beck. Nice one. Well done.
Thank you. And at that point we say, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.